Hello everyone. Today we're going to explore how to form the past in French with the verb to be, the verb être. There's a particular system that it's called Dr.Mrs Vandertramp that allows you to understand this better and quicker. Let's start saying that the past in English is very different from the past in French. We tend to say, we have in English two ways of saying it too, but we tend to say to use the shorter form. Let me rephrase this. We tend to say I ate, I went. We don't tend to say too much I have gone or I have eaten. In French instead, the passé composé, it's composed by three parts and it's a little longer than English. So it's like saying that in English you will always use I have eaten, I have gone, I have bought, and so on and so forth. In French you will use that particular way of forming the past. So like I said, the passé composé is composed by three parts. Let's see what these three parts are. Sujet, subject, can be a noun like chien, dog, can be a name like Maryse, and it can be a subject pronoun like il, elle, nous, vous, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing that you have in your passé composé. Then you have l'auxiliaire or auxiliary verb, which can be either être ou avoir. You probably at this point already done avoir, that's why I'm doing être. To go and look into avoir, watch one of my tutorials on the passé composé with avoir that I did previously. For an example of the auxiliaire with the verb to be, I put down le chien, the dog, est, that's one part, and that's the auxiliary of the passé. It's one part that forms the passé composé. So first the sujet, then l'auxiliaire, le chien, sujet, est, auxiliaire, and then is missing one third part, and that is participe passé or past participle. The past participle is basically what is in English eaten, bought, gone. That's participe passé. In French, there's the same way of doing it. It's just that there's some specific rules, and you need to learn a tutorial to watch a tutorial to learn it that I did in the past. At this point, with the passé composé with être, you're supposed to know already how to form the participe passé, but there's tutorials out there that I did, so you can go back and look into it. Here's the example that I gave you with participe passé with the same sentence. Le chien, subject, est auxiliaire, mort, participe passé. So this sentence means le chien est mort, means the dog is dead. Poor dog. That example I used. Anyways, here's the example, another example that I gave, and I broke it down for you. Je, sujet, suis, auxiliaire, monter, participe passé. This sentence means I went up. Je suis monté. So now let's be careful here, because many verbs in English, they take the auxiliary to have. Like I'll give you an example. I have gone, I have eaten, I have bought. While in French, they replace their auxiliary with the verb to be. So I have gone in English would be would use the auxiliary to have, but in French, look at this. Je suis allé. It takes the auxiliary to be, être. So it can be confusing when you're trying to speak the language or to write the language on which auxiliary to use. So how do you pick which auxiliary to use, whether it's to be or to have? Well, there's a particular system that allows you to do that, and it's pretty accurate. And it's called Dr.Mrs Vandertramp, like I said at the beginning of this tutorial. This is Dr.Mrs Vandertramp. It's just an acronym, and every single letter of the acronym matches the verb in French that takes the auxiliary être, to be. It's very accurate, like I said, and if you learn it, there's no way that you can get it wrong, and you always know which text être as opposed to have avoir. So let's get into specific here. Here's the acronym, Dr.Mrs Vandertramp. So let's do it one at a time. D stands for devenir. R stands for revenir. M, monter. R, retourner. S, sortir. Venir. Aller. Naître. Descendre. Entrer. Rentrer. Tomber. Retourner. Arriver. Mourir. Partir. Here we go. That's your acronym. All of these take the verb to be. So keep in mind this acronym, Dr.Mrs Vandertramp, and you will know all these verbs take the auxiliary être, to be, in the participe passé. Here's an example. Il est mort. He died. See, in English you would say he died. In French, il est mort. He's dead, or he has died. That's what it would translate. He has died. See, in English you use the auxiliary to have. He has died. In French is il est mort with the verb to be, with the auxiliary to be. Second example. Il est monté. Il est descendu. Tu es tombé. Ils sont partis. Okay, look at this last example here. Ils sont partis. Usually partis, that comes from the infinitive of the verb. Infinitive, I remind you, it's the verb when it's not conjugated. See, the very last letter of the acronym, the P here, is partir. It's spelled with the R in the end. Look how it becomes in the past participle. It becomes parti if it's not plural. If it's plural, gets an S. Parti. You don't pronounce it, but it's partis. But you don't pronounce it, you say parti. Why is that? We'll find out right away. You have l'accord du participe passé. What does that mean? You have to agree. You have to agree the past participle, which is, like I said, gone, done, done in English, bought. So the last part of the participe, passé composé, the last part of the whole form of the verb. Le participe passé, you have to agree with the subject that is speaking. But this is just with the auxiliary être, to be. So you have to agree with the subject. So this means that if the subject is masculine plural, the participe passé is going to add an S at the end. I'll give you an example. Ils sont devenus, in the plural, adds an S. If it was singular and it was it was je, for instance, je suis devenu, it wouldn't have an S. Second, if the subject is feminine, the participe passé will add an E in the end. So, look at the example. Elle est sortie e. If it was singular and it was a masculine, it would just be sortie without an E. Third, if the subject or sujet is feminine plural, the participe passé will add an E and an S at the end. I'll give you an example. Elles sont tombées. Look how it's spelled. If it was singular, it would have been spelled tombé with T-O-M-B-E apostrophe accent, and that's it. Instead, he adds an E because it's feminine and an S because it's feminine plural. So you have to agree the participe passé with the subject that we're talking about. And this is the last example that we have. Now, I'm going to give you an exercice de pratique, or a practice exercise. I'll give you a sentence where at the beginning of the sentence you'll have a verb in parentheses that you have to conjugate. You have to put it in the passé composé and agree the participe passé with the subject that is speaking. And underneath is another part that is in parentheses. That's a hint for you that you don't usually get in life. I'm just giving it to you because it's the first exercice de pratique. But in parentheses, you would see a hint who tells you the subject, whether it's plural, masculine, feminine, and so on and so forth, so you can agree the subject with the participe passé. Look at the example here. I'll give you tomber in parentheses, which is the verb that you have to conjugate, and then I'll give you the subject, Luc et Marie's, and look underneath, in parentheses, I'll give you plural masculine. I'm telling you that it's already plural and masculine. Luc et Marie sont tombés, because it's masculine, adds just an E, and because it's plural, adds an S. See that Luc is masculine, Marie is feminine, and then when you agree the past participle, it doesn't take a E because there's Marie and it's feminine. That's because in French, if you have a feminine and masculine, it always goes with the masculine. It's just an exception. It's just the way the language works. If there's a masculine and a feminine in the sentence, you have to agree with the masculine. And this is something that you should have done in the past, again, when you did the passé composé with avoir, and when you did the how to form the participe passé, or the past participle. Anyways, just a little refresh. Here's the exercise. I'm going to pause it now, and I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Do the exercise, and then we'll see the solution together. Okay, so pause it and take your time to do it. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Here we go again. Welcome back. Here's the solution of the exercise. Number 1. Luc et Julie sont sortis. See, Luc masculine, Julie feminine. I just said that if you have a masculine and feminine, you have to agree with the masculine. It's plural though, because there's 2 people. See, I put it underneath plural masculine in parentheses. Sont sortis. That's how you spell it, with an S. 2. Est arrivé. Notre prof est arrivé en retard cet matin. It's singular and masculine. So just an E at the end. 3. Venir. Quand est-ce que tu es venu? Look how it's spelled with the E at the end, because it's Julie after. Julie is feminine. 4. Mes parents sont partis. Parents, it's plural and masculine. It adds an S to the past participle. Sont partis. 5. Les élèves sont sortis. Les élèves is plural masculine. Sont sortis. That's how you spell. Numéro 6. Maman est restée chez grand-mère. Est restée with 2 E's because maman is feminine. Singular. 7. Julie et Louise sont tombées. 2 E and 1 S because it's 2 women that we're talking about. Julie et Louise, it's 2 feminine names. 8. Nous sommes revenus. Look, it's nous. It's masculine and it's plural. Revenu adds an S to the end of the past participle. And then 9. Je suis allé. Je suis allé. Singular masculine. That's how you spell it. Last one. La dernière. Vous êtes sorti du cinéma, monsieur. Monsieur, vous, it's plural, or it's also the formal way to address to someone in French, but it still goes with the vous, and vous, it's a plural form. So you have to add an S in the end. Sorti, with an S. So be really careful, because very often you cannot hear the plural or the feminine to the end of the participe passé. Like the last example here, vous êtes sorti. You don't hear sortis. You don't hear the S in the end. So you have to be able to know that it's spelled that way, because you're using the verb to be in the passé composé, and that's when you have to agree the subject with the participe passé, like I explained it before. Okay, this is the end of my tutorial. I'm going to try and upload also the exercise and the Dr. Mrs Vandertramp acronym for you, so you can print it out. I'm gonna upload it with this presentation. For now, that's all. I hope you understood it, and I'll see you next tutorial.